Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me today is my man, Andrew, the Legal Mindset. How you doing, brother?
What's going? I'm doing great. I'm going to great. Back in black, ready to, to do it again. It's been a while. It's been like a month or two, I think, since I've had you on. But yeah, I think we've both been, like burning ourselves like halfway silly. You're trying to unfat yourself. I'm trying to, have 52 YouTube channels and traveling back and forth from different countries. And then all of a sudden I get hit with a random specific area of law that actually happens to be my specialty area. So, shit happens. And the news doesn't ever wait for when it's convenient for you,
Not at all. Not at all. And yeah, this multiple YouTube channel thing, I was talking to some people today. I might be opening a second YouTube channel because fuck the algorithm, frankly.
Yes.
And this is the problem. If you want to do any variety of content, you have to basically open up a second channel. And YouTube will tell you all day, no, you don't do that. You just do it all on the same channel. That's a
lying pieces of shit. And by the way, I have a YouTube partner manager, just like you probably do.
Yeah.
Consistently, number one, they don't know any facts about my channel, right? So they'll be like, have you ever considered starting YouTube memberships? I'm like, motherfucker, I have multiple tiers. Like, did you not even bother to look? It takes 2 seconds for you to look. You didn't even look, did you? Right? But they'll say, oh, no, do what you want. Do what you feel like. Do it. No. I know that's what you get at your feelings camp in San Francisco, but that does not actually work.
Yeah, no, the one thing I'll say about two things. I'll say two things about my partner manager. She actually does know my channel, which is nice. That is big ups, because I've heard that complaint from several creators. They get one and the person seems to have no idea what they're doing. But the two that I've had have both been great. And one of them, the first guy I had, he was actually, he went to a different team. And my favorite part of him was I eventually looked him up on Twitter after he was gone. And he was like, Black Lives Matter and super like whatever. But he never, ever like complained about my content. And he always was like, here's how you optimize it. Here's how you need to be careful on this stuff. I was like, and I looked him up. How were you not just literally planning my murder the entire time? And then, my new one, she's like, I don't know anything about her beliefs or whatever, but she's pretty cool. I was telling someone today, I was like, it was a strike issue I was talking to them about, and they're like, I was like, I can reach out to my partner manager. I don't know if it'll be any good. The only time it's ever been good was the one time that it really mattered, and every other time it's failed. So I was like, I got to give her props. When it counted, she was there and came in clutch. But every other time when I wanted her help, she just couldn't get anything done. But yeah, they consistently will tell you, oh yeah, taking a long break, don't worry, everything will be fine when you get back. It's like, yeah, except your views will be cut in into a fifth of what they were. And then yeah, if you you can just do whatever content you want on your channel, because people are there for you. It's like, yeah, but people are there for us, but you don't distribute to those people at all.
That's what it is right there. It's like, if you've gotten into the algorithm for a particular topic, then you're in that algorithm. But the second you step outside of it, you just got to restart. It's the full restart button, like hard restart.
And so I'm thinking of doing, I've been hankering to get back into short content lately. Just because like I've been toying with clips and stuff, and they just never perform. They don't do it right.
No.
So it's like, I can create short content. I used to do it and put that on its own channel and have that just deliver and deliver and deliver. Never live stream on it. Never do anything longer than like 5 minutes to 10 minutes on it. And it'll just consistently go, because that's what YouTube loves.
And that's exactly what I do in my new channel. It's been growing for the last couple months. It's my Go East Gentleman channel, which all I do is talk about stuff abroad. It can be random stuff like, hey, here's, how do you do, immigration, or here's how you get a cell phone plan. 5 minutes, I just talk for 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes, exactly like you said, every single day, consistently have a video. I'll pre-record them, a couple times a month. Don't have to really worry about it or stress about it. And you see it grow without you having to think about it. But with Legal Mindset, and also obviously with your channel, we got to stay stay on top of the news all the fucking time. It's a lot of work. It's a shit ton of work.
Yep. And so that's my I'm tossing that around in my head to see if I can wrangle that. But other than that, man, it's great to see you. I love talking to you. Our schedules are such in conflict that it always seems like we hate each other.
Well, no, and that's what I was talking about with Drex. It's like, because he was off, like we didn't have a Pimpcast for 3 weeks, and people are like, oh my God, they're beefing. Like, you know, they're no longer bros. They're fucking fighting. Like, you know, Andrew dropped a racial slur and Drex called him a beta. You know, like, no, none of that happened. We're still cool. He was with you hanging out. Then he's going to go simp for whatever he's going to do in Atlanta, you know, and wherever he's going. So, you know, this happens. We get crazy schedules, and when we can hang out, we can hang out. Like, this is one random weekend where actually this week I'm actually pretty free. So I can, you know, meet with you. I'm probably going to try to hang out tomorrow if I'm feeling better for a little longer. But yeah, no, it's good to hang out when I can hang out.
It's awesome, man. I love it. So tonight we're going to hit some topics. Let's kind of previewing that. We're going to hit DeSantis. That's what you were alluding to earlier. It's right in your wheelhouse. You're from the area. You're very familiar with the law involving the Reedy Creek, whatever housing district or whatever the stupid thing's called, which is, I believe, completely defunct now. And now it's got a new name.
Dissolved. It legally doesn't exist. Now it's the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, CFTOD. It's not as sexy as RCID, but hey, whatever. People still call it Reedy Creek, and I have to say, hey, it's gone, because that legally matters, right? But pretty much everybody who's been commenting on this, from Legal Eagle and Leonard French to random experts from Virginia that somehow are called in to comment on Florida law, you know, have been horribly off base on this. But I'm happy to educate.
Yeah, so we're gonna hit that and kind of cut through the narrative of the media, because the media wants you to believe that Disney is completely in the right. That DeSantis is a lunatic with no authority to do any of this. That the Florida government is just evil, and that is not the whole story. And so I want to make sure we get the facts from someone who knows on this one. We'll probably talk a little bit about Crowder, I guess, because Crowder is this enigmatic figure on the right, and there's some drama. I mean, there's just some,
you know, and whenever there's drama, we got to at least have a basic take, or at least how to analyze it, and how I analyzed it. You know, this looking at it, I talked about it a little bit with Drex, but that had to go members only because, well, it's Drex. So you know,
I can imagine he was definitely on Crowder's side and fully within everything.
Yeah, that's a hard no. Actually, that's funny. It's funny because everybody thought that. All the comments beforehand, people were coming to the chat saying these guys are going to totally absolve Crowder and say nothing bad about Crowder. Like, actually, if you listen to it, we kind of busted up Crowder more than even his wife.
I mean, the problem. So Dick Masterson was on the show with me on Friday, and he came in hot on Crowder. Like, and it was funny. It was great. Even though, like, I've been kind of withholding some commentary, but I'm going to make some tonight. But he came in hot on Crowder, and it's kind of really one of the biggest problems with it is everything Crowder has ever said about marriage, his wife, how men should talk about things, is undermined in that video. And yeah, there may be some context that's missing, but what happens in that video, even with context, is still, I mean, it's still a problem for the positions that he was espousing. Now, but we'll save that and get into it, because otherwise we could start that debate and the chat will get into it, and we'll never get around to it. But we'll hold that off for later. One of the things I really have been wanting to talk to you about is some of the news lately I've seen on in the e-thought world.
Oh, yes.
We got sports thottery as a whole new genre of sports consumption, which is great. And then we've got Amaranth got banned today for the first time since 2021. I mean, allegedly her husband.
How many hours is it for? Is it for 3 hours or 4? Because
well, her husband has to be holding her at gunpoint, forcing her to do inappropriate content. That's the only thing I can imagine that would get her banned.
That's true.
And then so there's that. And then there's a news story I saw the other day that there is something brilliant, which is there's people talking about creating a new sports league that is only OnlyFans people. And it didn't specify women. So I don't know if it's co-ed leagues. I don't know if it's multiple like different sports or whatever, but it's only OnlyFans creator. And I think there's a level of brilliance to this. Even if they're fully clothed and there's nothing crazy going on, I think it's a brilliant thing for some reasons I mentioned yesterday, and we'll kind of rehash those. Big welcome to Good Logic and his viewers. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for rating the channel. Happy to have you here. Joe will be on my show or I will be on Joe's show on Monday. So keep your eye out for that if you're hearing from Joe. But yeah, so we've got some topics there, and we may hit on the judges and the ethics stuff. That's been kind of like the media is trying to make fetch happen on that one. And so, you know, who knows what else we've got coming, but that's the show we've got kind of laid out today. But let me hit these quick early super chats and any big Rumble rants that come in, and then we'll jump into the topics. Watch Captain Elaine of the Death Watch says, "Hey, Rackets and Andrew, Nick wanted to ask if you'd had a chance to drop by the post office yet." Yes. And if I think you may, I think I got the thing that you sent, although the name is different. And I'll probably show it tomorrow. It's super fucking cool. That's my, if I had to guess. But I'll probably show it tomorrow. It's just not readily in arm's reach right now. Chris D says, "Matt can kiss my ... Honestly, when I was a kid, I played Doom for 8 hours and programmed for another 8, turned that into a career. I love it." So that's talking about Matt Walsh and his
yes. Video games and anime are satanic. I mean, let's be clear. They're very satanic. Hail Satan. I, as Lucifer's #1 horseman of the apocalypse, am definitely bringing anime and video games into this world.
Well, even if they're not satanic, because that's a joke, Andrew. Obviously, it's a dry joke. They're not satanic, but playing more than an hour a day is actually wrong, and kids need to go outside. That's what they need to do. It's the only way to become a well-adjusted human is to go outside as a child and not play video games or be on screens at all for more than an hour a day. That's the rule Matt Walsh has professed, apparently, as his mitigation of that. Which is so great, because every time any new media has ever been introduced, that is always the thing. It's like, well, you can't do this new thing. That's unhealthy to do for too long. And people who do it for too long are all murderous psychopaths. And what you have to do is go back to the old thing that existed, because that's the only healthy way. And it's a fallacy of novelty and fallacy of antiquity.
How do these, like, what really is fascinating to me is how do these boomer takes work their way into, how old is Matt Walsh?
He's 36.
He's literally as old as I am. And he's got this 1990s take from back when, like, they were coming after Mortal Kombat and, you know, basic video games. How does he get that re-injected? Think, hey, it went so well last time. That was such a great point. We're going to resurrect this point again. This point that probably single-handedly made a generation go left. Let's do that again. It makes me wonder.
Yeah, I have no idea how he got this, but that's his whole career. As far as I've observed, is Matt Walsh has always had like the boomer take. But I'll tell you, the boomer audience is loyal, and they click all the time. And actually, when I mentioned the short form content earlier, in someone in my local said short form content, that's for Zoomers. No, actually, it's not. And I have the stats to show you.
Yeah, no, the boomers are on short form content as well. But I will say this. About Matt Walsh, though. About Matt Walsh. With that take, I actually think it's going for the hate watch. Because here's the thing. A person who loves you watches your show maybe 2 hours a day, right? If you're doing a 4-hour show. A person who hates you watches every damn second of your show. Every second, start to finish. The hate watch is always much more strong than the love watch.
That is usually true. It depends on the length of the content. But when I was doing the short content during the 2020 election cycle, over half of my viewers, and this includes both live streams and these short videos, the watch time percentage, over half of my viewers were over 55. And half of them were over 65.
All right. That's pretty good.
So I'm just like, when people do, and it's funny because that's the demographic that says these damn kids and their short attention spans and short form. When you're making like 3 to 5 minute videos, the overwhelming majority of watch time that you get on conservative political topics specifically is this 55 plus audience, and they are loyal. They click every video, they watch every video. When I was doing it, I think 60 to 70% of my videos outdid my subscriber count. It was crazy. Plenty
of time to watch, I guess. You know, you're sitting, you know, you're sitting out there in Polk County and hanging out in the you know, the planned retirement village, and you're just sitting there swiping. You got nothing else to do. You finished playing golf, you know. I got it. Yeah.
And it reminds them of a news segment. News segments are 3 minutes. Like a Sean Hannity story is 3 minutes long. Okay, you're a great American. Let's talk about this. It's 3 minutes. There's no substance. It's all fluff. It's basically a 3-minute recitation of a headline, his little take in there. And some of the most popular television that has ever existed is that content. It's just Sean Hannity's just like a couple hours of those 3-minute segments. So when people go on YouTube and they find that, and it delivers that to them because it's reinforcing and it's beautiful. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the short content, is creating this, you know, short news content where I can hit a lot of topics really simply, break them down, and have people have access to them. I mean, because not everybody has time for 3-hour, 4-hour shows.
It's make it digestible, and that's what everybody asks me for. And I see what people ask. It's like, hey, I love your hour stream, but like, can I get a 5-minute TLDR version, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I would love to make that. The problem is the algorithm wants you to go one way or another. Are you streaming, or are you doing clips? Are you doing pre-recorded videos, right? If you're going to do one, you kind of got to stick to it. You can throw in an occasional live, but you really got to stick to the one or the other. Pick a lane.
Absolutely. Okay, next we've got Jesus Davila, who has dropped a membership, some gifted memberships as well. Thank you for that. Frederick Little gifted some memberships. Thank you so much. Matrix says, Andrew and Ricada, love y'all. Follower and a member of both. Much appreciated, my man. Or woman. I don't judge. This will probably be read hours later. Nope. It's cool. I have a friend needing a liver transplant with a husband who's in jail for beating her children. Prayers and a shot requested. Holy shit. Yeah. I got this new bourbon. I got the Kentucky Owl, the Wiseman, which is like their not expensive bourbon. That's what we're going to hit for that shot. This is
and guys, I would be drinking if I wasn't on like 16 different medicines right now. So yeah, in spirit, I'm drinking with you guys.
So a cheers to your friend who needs a new liver, who needs a liver transplant, and you know, prayers for protection, support, and healing over her while she endures that. And hopefully the husband remains in jail, as child beaters should not be walking free. Cheers. Shrek the Hulk says, is there a First Amendment consideration regarding them not wanting to release the Covenant Shooters Manifesto?
Oh.
No, because I'm sure it's a national secret or whatever.
It's like a FOA exemption. It's some sort of, because I don't know their state transparency laws. Obviously, I talk about Florida's all the time. That's why we have such aggressive stories about Florida, man. It's because all of that is public record in Florida. It's very transparent. Yeah, I don't know about Tennessee or whatever they're holding that back under. Probably it's some public health welfare bullshit.
Yeah, it's who knows. Yeah, who knows what authority they have. I'm not an expert. That gets to be very complex areas of law. It's not a government generated document. So do you have the right to see it type stuff? Like they just confiscated a thing. Is it sealed because they need to protect the identities of some people in there? You know, who knows what kind of stuff can go on with that. I don't know. Maybe I have no idea who to even talk to about that other than maybe Barnes. If he even knows. Bella Stella says, hi, Nick and Andrew. Hi. Love you Bella. Both. Can I get a toast? It's my birthday on the 5th, and I'm spending it so far with all of y'all. Well, happy birthday, Bella. I don't know how old you are, but a toast to you, a toast to your joy, success, and your venerable your venerable years, whatever they may be. May those venerable years be less and less vulnerable, more and more steadfast. May they bring you joy and peace and adventure. Cheers. The Big Sniff has a two-parter here. He says, good day, Mr. Nose. Good day. Hope you're well. I'm setting myself up to move out from Australia out to a place where people actually care about people's freedoms and rights. COVID was a real eye-opener at how quickly our government cracked down. Do you have a recommendation for any states that would be a good place to move that care for the First and Second Amendment? Christian and conservative also helps. Recommend you watch Topher Field's doc on the vid lockdowns. Look, I mean, go for it.
You're going from Australia. I mean, anywhere is going to be an upgrade in terms of First and Second Amendment because we actually
Rhode Island would be better.
Yeah. Like even California is better, but I would never recommend that. Florida and Texas are the two obvious choices. I mean, for me, and maybe Tennessee is a good one as well. Depends on exactly what your family situation is, what your economic situation is. Do you need to get a specific type of job? But if you're looking for a 2A and looking for freedom of speech, just freedom of lifestyle, where people aren't going to bother with you or fuck with you, those states are all great. Vegas, if you're into certain other things, but that's a different lifestyle.
You also have the Southeast. If you want some snow, you've got places like Montana. You've got Idaho, Utah, outside of Salt Lake City, of course. Stay away from big cities, and you've really got lots of options. You want to look at your state tax burden. You want to look at how they treat guns. You got to be wary of places that are going heavily purple, like Colorado, because Colorado, which has traditionally been a great gun state, has some real close calls lately because of the California influence of people moving there. So Arizona is a really interesting state. I would hang away from New Mexico, maybe, if you're in the Southwest. But the Southeast in general is pretty good. Stay away from Louisiana unless you enjoy getting murdered.
And also, like, if you're okay with cold, then the northern plain states are all right, like the Montanas and the Wyomings and stuff. But like, obviously, that's going to be a lot more frosty than Texas.
Anyone who doesn't know that Montana is called Montana doesn't understand a Montana winter in the mountains. Like,
it's real lonely, and you've got yourself in a bear.
Yeah, and a lot of snow in your beard and on your dick beard. Okay, so that's the YouTube ones. The Real Super Pleb says Disney is rapidly becoming Troon Central. Put them on the wall. Also, it's 2023. It's okay to be gay. Have $10. Oh, thank you.
There you go. Yeah, Grady Judd is working on that. Don't worry about it. The Polk County Sheriff.
With that, this Polk County motherfucker. My buddy, I was asking him. He lives down in Florida, and I was asking him about something. He's like, "You kidding? This is Polk County. You can do
I've heard
anything."
I have heard that said by people. Like, this is Polk County. Shit don't fly down here like that.
Yep.
I'm like, this is so rare. Like, that's an injection of like old America. I'm like, God damn, I love this part of America.
It was a contrast to the gay sheriff of Broward County. Like that. He's like, this is Polk County. Fuck around like that. It's great.
Nope.
PJ Park JD says, plug my dad's book at Learjet. Learjethistory.com. Then do a backflip. Okay. Go check out Learjethistory.com for PJ Park JD's dad's book, presumably on the history of the Learjet or Lear as a company. And then I guess I'll be doing a backflip later. So it was nice knowing you guys. Okay. All right. Let's get into Disney. I have some stories, but why don't we, as I pull this story, I got one story about this, but why don't you give us some background on kind of what's going on with this that will help kind of frame the discussion?
Sure. And obviously, like I said, I've been producing pretty much nonstop content on this for the last week. So obviously you can check out my channel for that. And to be very clear right now, we actually have two active cases. We have a state case in the 9th Judicial Circuit of Florida. That's the circuit for Central Florida, which is where I used to practice. And I'm very familiar with this judge. And there's also a case in the Northern District of Florida. That's a federal case, right? So all of this goes back to when, back in the day, Walt Disney wanted to build a city. So Walt always had this dream. He was kind of one of those urban planner types. Florida was really undeveloped. We had some like We had a couple manatees and a crocodile, alligator too, and a skunk ape. We really didn't have anything out there. And he wanted to build a city. So he went to the state and said, look, we're going to build this theme park. But really what we want to do is build a city because there's nothing here. And that's going to bring people to Florida. That's going to really build this. And we don't want it to be any city. We want it to be the experimental prototype community of tomorrow.
City of tomorrow, baby.
The city of tomorrow. We want it to have a nuclear reactor at its core, surrounded by urban sprawl, with monorails running outside. You can see the model of this, by the way, when you take the tram. It's like within Future World, and it kind of gives you the overhead tour. You go and see the planned city, what it was supposed to be. And the housing on the outside, parks on the outside, very well urban planned. So they gave him permission. They said, hey, we're going to let you do this. We're going to give you permission to build that nuclear reactor. I'm not kidding. They had that authority. We're going to give no zoning regulations. You guys set your own zoning, own building codes, fire codes. You can set your own taxes. In fact, you can increase taxes on yourself 3 times what's legal in the state of Florida. So you can go crazy with taxing yourself if you want to. You can do whatever you want.
And then Walt said, but can we keep the Jews out?
That's for Rumble. Anyways, so Walt was really hyped up about this, and then he kicked the bucket, right? And then, of course, his head is on ice, waiting to be resurrected, obviously, and be very angry with Iger. But they got this authority, and they set up a district. Now, a district it's like a type of government, but there's one key difference. In your city, and most cities follow this. So the way authority works for cities and counties and states is any power that is not expressly reserved for the state, the city can do whatever it wants. It's called home rule. So your city can do everything that the state can't do or doesn't do expressly. So all those other powers the city can do.
Right.
Special districts aren't like that. They only have the powers expressly what is in the statute. So I gave the example, if you're allowed to deliver milk on a Tuesday, you can't deliver orange juice, you can't deliver Coke, you can't deliver it on a Wednesday or Thursday, just on a Thursday. It is express. So they had express powers to do a lot of things. Well, fast forward, they made some political comments. This is very true, right?
Yep.
But also for a long time, I will say Reedy Creek was on the chopping block. I used to represent Universal Studios, and I can now say this publicly because it doesn't really matter anymore. Back in the day, we approached the state saying, we're Universal. We want something just like Disney. It's inequitable that they have this special district where they can govern themselves, and we have to go to these goddamn communists in Orange County and try to get everything approved. And they obviously are extracting all this money, all this time, all this, they're slow as hell. We can't get anything done. Look at Disney. They get everything done because they get to approve their own shit.
Yep.
And the state said, absolutely not. That was a horrible mistake. We should have never done it. And even then, they were considering undoing it. Even then, this is years ago, 5 years ago, they were considering undoing Reedy Creek. It was just a matter of time until they came through. They made the statements regarding the political rights and education bill, right? And this was re-examined. And the Reedy Creek district was dissolved. But the way it worked was there was a year for them to wind down and dissolve and also come to a settlement. And everyone was screaming and yelling. They're like, they've got $1 billion in bonds, and that's going to be the general obligation of the state of Florida or of Orange County, and all the taxes are going to go up. It's going to be crazy. And I was like, dude, chill. That's not how Florida law works. It would have to go on Disney. All those will be paid back by Disney.
Yep.
And they'll probably create a new district. And guess what happened? They created a new district. The only difference is they took away some of the crazy powers like the nuclear power plant crap, right? They made them subject to modern law because there's decades of law they missed out on, including a lot of our transparency laws they've skipped out on. So they made them subject to all that new law, subject to everything that's passed in the last 60 years. And instead of appointed by Disney, now the board is appointed by the state, which, by the way, is very true for many other districts in the state of Florida. And to be clear, I used to represent all of the districts, almost all of them, that were surrounding Disney. So Celebration, many people have heard of that. Reunion, Bonnet Creek, Mystic Dunes. That was me back in the day, going to those public meetings and speaking. It's very niche. It's like bird law. It's like Charlie Kelly from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia sitting around like, I'm never going to get a case. And then a cockatiel attacks Biden. It's like your one moment, like the one area of expertise. Because look, I think you get this a lot.
Matthew McConaughey jumping off the tower with the axe to kill the dragon.
Yes.
Right? And Rain of Fire just, yes.
It's the one moment. It's like, this is it. I'm probably never going to claim specialty over anything else. This is my one case. Just let me fucking have this. So obviously I had to speak up on this because I know this area of law intimately, and it's very Florida specific. It's very statute specific. It's very tied into specific case law. And Disney was trying to frame it as a First Amendment issue. And they've been doing this for the past year.
Right.
And they've been trying to frame it that way, kind of prepare the media as a First Amendment issue. This is what they've been trying to argue. But the issue is they never had standing because all the actions that Ron DeSantis took were angled towards the district.
Mm-hmm.
And if Disney is the district, right, which they aren't, those are two separate entities. One's a private company, one is a government. Disney certified that they were separate. In fact, in a very unethical way, their chief counsel for Disney acted as special counsel for the district to certify the public nature of the district. It was an insane oversight, but probably just because they were used to controlling everything for so long.
Right.
They just look past it. But now when people are looking at it and I'm looking back and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's on the line saying this, that is called securities fraud. When you offer these bonds and you say these are government bonds, they're tax-free, they have all of the benefits or a lower interest rate, right? They're considered more secure. And when the IRS can come back and say, those aren't, the bondholders can call them for that purpose. When liens can get placed on Disney property, yeah, it's a big deal. So anyways, fast forward, the board's transition from Old Reedy Creek to the new Central Florida Tourism District. Now, here's where it gets crazy, and this is very specific. Disney and Reedy Creek, before it transitions, they enter into what's called a development agreement, which also included restrictive covenants. So think about your HOA. Are you in an HOA, Nick? Do you live in an HOA?
Oh, God, no.
Okay.
No, I went to law school.
Okay. But you know how HOAs work, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
So real quick, a quick primer on restrictive covenants. A restrictive covenant is it's a covenant, a promise between the buyer and seller that is intended to run with the land. And this is as long as there is informed consent of this covenant, the subsequent owner is bound to the same restrictions on the land use that the prior owner was. You see this when you cannot have agricultural animals, livestock, or crops in a particular area because the people around don't want you growing your own corn. Now, they may have like a carve out for like a small, less than a quarter-acre garden or something like that, depending on where you are. But they'll say, nope, you can't farm this land because farms stink and animals are gross and they wander and cause damage and attract bugs and do all this stuff. So they say, nope, no one can farm on this land. That would be a restrictive covenant. And as long as you're informed, and you're informed if it's filed with the city, basically, because when you do your title search to purchase the property and that transfer of title happens, you have constructive notice in most states, not all, but in most states. So that covenant tends to run with the land. And the only way to do that is to buy yourself out of those covenants, which usually costs some extra money if you can even do it. But so long as there's notice, these things last forever. Fun fact, they used to use restrictive covenants to keep black people out of neighborhoods.
Yes, and that's not enforceable anymore, right? So like that's the best example of, yeah, you can't just put everything in a covenant and then say, bim, bam, boom, it's magically enforceable. Yeah, if you put something in there about race or national origin, they're not going to enforce that. If you say, yeah, we're not going to allow like, Yemenites in here or like, Somalians, like that's not going to fly in modern day America. The court's going to say, yeah, no. And one thing in Florida that's very clear, that's a yeah, no, and it's very settled in Florida case law, is that covenants, private covenants, cannot bind governments. So you cannot tell, for example, the city, right? Be like, hey, all fire trucks through here have to have the LGBTQ flag on them. I'm sorry, it's a covenant, it's in there. You got to do it. You can't come here unless you got the BLM fist on the side, and you've got the NFL is gay. You've got Dylan Mulvaney there. Like unless you've got all these things, it's not enforceable, and that's basic Florida law because you could have some really ridiculous things happening, including political speech and religious speech, all those sorts of things that are not enforceable. So just as a principle, it's not allowed. Well, Disney tried that. And they tried to say the government, before it shifted over to the DeSantis controlled board, gives all of its powers over to Disney. All of it, pretty much all of its powers, almost all of its powers. And for many reasons, right? And of course, there are many reasons for this, and I've been going over many of them on my channel. For many reasons, these are not valid. These are invalid, right? And the district moved to make an official declaration that they were invalid. On the same day they did that, Disney filed a federal suit. And that's because their argument was that that's what gave them standing, really, right? So that loss of those contractual rights, those restrictive covenant rights, those development rights, that's what gave them standing. So that whole argument is based on that. Not the fact, by the way, and you can go through the whole complaint, it doesn't challenge the fact that the old district was disbanded. Oh, no, not at all. And in fact, none of their prayers for relief asked for the old district to be reinstated. They don't do that. What they do is they complain that Ron DeSantis said some mean stuff about us, doesn't like our political takes, and therefore First Amendment violation, and we need to stop these agreements from being overturned. But that was the federal complaint. That was the federal complaint.
But they have a huge problem with trying to do this because, as you pointed out in one of your, I think it was in one of your short videos, but it probably came as a clip from a long video. One of the Florida law has very specific requirements on how this stuff needs to happen. And those requirements involve notice requirements. Remember when I was talking about the restrictive covenants, the key factor in these things is having notice that this is running with the land, because when you have notice, you're effectively giving consent through having the notice and proceeding with the transaction. Well, if you're going to transfer a bunch of these covenants and the powers to enforce these covenants to a different entity, you have to give the people who are under those covenants notice and an opportunity to be heard, that the person receiving the power of those of enforcement over those restrictive covenants will actually be a good governor, that they consent to be governed by this new enforcement power that is not a government. And Disney failed the basic notice requirements of all of them by not mailing out a physical copy, which is a plainly stated, non-ambiguous term in the notice or in the statute requiring notice to be delivered to everybody under these legal entities.
Yeah. So
did I get that? I got that right.
No, you got that spot on.
Yeah.
It was very clear. It was like, you shall deliver all property owners notice. And it's like, it's very clear they didn't do that. Extremely clear they didn't do that. So because of that, and also, by the way, we have really strong sunshine laws. They failed to turn over their previous government communications. They're actually hiding those, which is also a separate violation. Can end up being criminal action against Disney for scuttling those. That's separate. Our AG is looking into that. But that being said, so these things aren't valid. So that's why they filed the state case. And the state case has the proper parties. It's just the district, no DeSantis. DeSantis is not involved in that. It's the district versus Disney. So that's going to be the first case to go. That's a state law case. All of this stuff is state law. So this is, interpreting Florida statutes. And that's a preliminary issue. So I was talking with Gosney. He's very convinced as well. The federal case is going to be put on hold till they resolve the state case, because without that, they have no standing, period. So the whole thing would be moot. So that'll have to go.
Yeah. And there's two ways to handle standing issues in federal cases. One is if there's no prospect that the case will be resolved in a timely manner, they'll dismiss the case without prejudice and let it go. If there is a look that they'll actually resolve the underlying issue of standing that is in conflict, then they'll simply assign the judge. The judge will put a stay on the case. They'll stay any tolling, or they'll toll the statute of limitations on it. So that'll just kind of sit in limbo. And then once that issue is finally resolved, the judge will resume the case at that point. Parties, of course, can brief anything they want to in the meanwhile. And once the case resumes, everything will the floodgates will be open, and the judge will be dealing with that at the federal level. And that's why you see some of these federal cases that get filed and take 4, 6, 10, 15 years to resolve. Is sometimes there's a standing issue where they needed to file because of statute of limitations concerns, but they need to resolve that underlying standing issue before the court can even determine if it's hearable by the court.
Yeah. The issue is that unfortunately Disney obviously captures the media. I mean, they own a lot of media themselves, but they also own people like, well, some larger folks on YouTube, right? And as well as the mainstream media, Reuters, who says all the experts say this is a slam dunk for Disney. I'm like, I haven't seen one expert yet. I haven't seen one person. Even the federal case doesn't really acknowledge any of the relevant Florida law. So I haven't seen anybody on it. So that's why I've been covering it and continue to cover it. I covered the state case line by line. I've yet to go line by line on the federal case because it's longer, but I do plan on doing that tomorrow on my channel. So I do plan on going through that and making some presumptions based on the state case. So we'll use both of those in kind of relevance. So yeah, that's why I've been on that for a while.
It's a wild thing, man. And
there's one more weird element, and this is the weirdest for me. And you can probably answer this because this is an online thing. So here's what's happening too. There's two certain groups, right? There's people who fucking hate DeSantis. They just hate him because of this Trump versus DeSantis stuff. So there's this group of people on the right that hate DeSantis, and they're just like, we got to get DeSantis. So they just came out, and a lot of people that have seen that I think are smart folks, they're great on other issues. They just ran out to be like, he's going to get owned, fuck DeSantis, this and that, which look, his presidential aspirations aside, right? The law is the law. And then there's the libertarians. And I will say that despite the fact that I would say, yeah, that's probably the closest, general political philosophy in America, but they heard First Amendment. And all they did was they heard First Amendment and said, oh, we got to back it up. And I'm like, that's the same sort of Me Too logic. Oh, it's a woman. Oh, well, we got to back her up, right? Amber Heard. Oh, we got to back her up. And I think those two groups to me just blow my mind that they're using the same logic of the people that they would criticize if it was something going against them.
Right. And it's an interesting concept. It's the problem with libertarianism is when it conflicts with practical governance, right? Like, and that's why I don't like the Libertarian Party as a governing concept, is because it's inherently opposed to itself, which is weird. But you run into practical concerns. It's the problem with which you call it, Ron. Fucking can't think of his last name right now. Ron Paul. Ron Paul would always have these great commentaries, great policies, and then he'd say something where it's like, well, but this isn't practicable at this point. Like we might get there eventually, but he would always come across as a little bit wacko on some issues.
Hold on, Nick. You're saying we can't issue letters of marque for Somali pirates? That's not going to work?
Maybe we should. but no, it's always, and like one of the classic ones is like, my personal opinion is that all drugs should eventually be legal. But a libertarian position is often all drugs should be legal tomorrow. It's like, well, let's hold on a second though.
Let's pump the brakes.
Right. Like, let's have a gradual introduction of these things and let's deal with the fentanyl epidemic before we go ahead and just make it all accessible over the counter at Target. Of course, it would probably be a self-correcting problem at the same time in some way. But like, that's where libertarians run into stuff. And it's like, well, you're not going to untangle the underpinning Florida law that has run the state for 150 years overnight and just be like, well, if DeSantis isn't willing to do this, then he's a bad guy. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. I mean,
and then change law. So it's like, all right, so every time like HOAs now can control governments. And also you have First Amendment standing to challenge anything when you're indirectly affected by a government action. It really is that like when the city that you're operating in is affected by it's really weird. The precedential effect would be very awkward. I wouldn't see this standing up long-term in federal court, even if they got a friendly judge, which someone was concerned about. By the way, the first judge was an Obama appointee, but he actually recused himself. So there's going to be a new appointment there.
But so how do you see this ultimately panning out? Like, I know you can't predict any of this stuff. There's it's complicated. It's a long process. But what do you think is the ultimate resolution? The one thing I know is Disney as much as they bitch about whatever's going on, they won't get what they had in Florida anywhere, because there's nowhere, no state is going to grant that much power. Most states don't even have districts like Florida has to even create the thing that they created. That's kind of a, if I'm not mistaken, it's a pretty unique Florida specific concept. And so they're not going to get that. The best they're going to get is a tax offer somewhere, a tax haven, and the ability to buy maybe a couple thousand acres of land in a close spot to start reconstructing. But we're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars. It's highly impractical. Disney isn't making the type of money to do that with their debt obligations that already exist. You know, we've seen them take revenue hits and stuff lately on their streaming services, which has been running at a loss. A lot of their movies are running at losses. They're basically funding the parks and the merchandise, which keep Disney up. And the IPs that they focus on are park heavy and merchandise heavy attractions that will bring people in and give people physical things to buy, because their soft product is not selling the way it used to. So let's just assume that Disney ain't fucking leaving Florida unless they're just shutting down, which would be a massive financial disaster for them.
I mean, that's their biggest park. That's the biggest income maker worldwide of all the parks in all of the world. That is the number one, because it's Disney World. There's more than one park there. There's 5 different things there, multiple hotels,
insane
shopping complex. Yeah, it's so you're not going to find 25,000 acres of undeveloped land that's that prime located anywhere in the world, period, hands down. It's not going to happen. And well, sorry, you could probably find it in the middle of Africa or something, but I mean, good luck with that. But in the United States, you're not going to be able to find that, and they certainly don't have the funds to purchase that, frankly, because the cost would be insane. So assuming they're not,
you got to remember that Disney bought this land in what, the 40s,
the 50s and 60s.
50s?
What they did was they took a bunch of. It was actually very unique. They took a bunch of smaller plots and they put them together and they assembled them into a big piece, right? And that's how they ended up taking it and ended up getting the whole land together. It was actually kind of smart. And actually, everybody tries to copy them now. So they'll buy it in smaller pieces in Florida and then put it together because you can place them with holding companies. It can be, Nose Incorporated, and your other one is like Rackets Inc. And then, they come together to the Nose Racket.
Oh, you got to have Nose Inc., Straw LLC, and Line Corporation. Right. And bring those 3 together. For your all night district. Never closes. Always open, always on, and always going strong.
so what'll happen is this. I think there's 2 possible strategies here. For Disney, right? And this is me giving my best possible advice to Disney, which is stall, hope DeSantis gets distracted politically, right? He gets into some political stuff down the line. And it is in his best interest to come to some sort of agreement with them. What they really want, by the way, are the development rights. And what that is, by the way, is in Florida, when you go to build something, you got to have some sort of amount of conservation land you're taking care of, because we got, like I said, turtles and scrub jays and all of sort of stuff, protected species you got to care for. So they did that, and the Reedy Creek is still paying for that, and tax money goes to pay for maintaining conservation land. So because of that, they get to build shit. They want the right to continue to build shit and expand. And so just come to an agreement, a actually well-noticed agreement, a proper agreement that gives Disney what it needs to develop, but it's reasonable. It doesn't have insane terms. It's properly noticed, right? Go through that same process in the future. And I think that would be the best way to end it for Disney. It's a win-win, right? Yes, it's going to be a state-controlled district, but they're not going to try to run them out of the state or shut them down, right?
Florida loves for all of the bickering, Florida loves having Disney there. And that's why this has persisted for as long as it has. They bring a ton of money to the state. They bring a ton of people to the state. People fly into Orlando. They fly into Tampa. They fly into Jacksonville or whatever. And then they go to Disney. That means they're flying to these airports. There's commerce all along the way. They're renting cars. They're getting hotel rooms. You're bringing development in. You're bringing jobs to these areas, which means you're bringing people, which means you're bringing taxpayers. All of the, and you know what, like for as shit as Disney can be, a lot of these jobs are tax positive jobs. Like they pay well to a lot of the people who work there.
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them.
Some of them are, I will say, are paid chronically low wages because
right.
they just want to work at Disney for the dream of working at Disney. They treat it like an honor. The law firms they bill their work out to, I've talked about this before, they bill it to the lowest bidder because people want the Disney insignia on their corporate letterhead, on their firm letterhead. That's worth something.
And I had a friend who worked at the Disney store in Minnesota for in the Mall of America, and I think it was only the Mall of America, but it bounced all over that place. Worked there for years and years. But that's because she loved Disney. She went there all the time, and the employee discount was worth far more to her than the wage, because she got discounts on the parks, she got discounts on all the products, she got the ability to get early access to shows and releases of things, and that was what it was. That is valuable to people because they're indoctrinated with Disney. And look, not for me, but maybe they like it. I don't know.
And now let me give you that was the reasonable what's in Disney's best interest. If you want the get woke go broke version, I'll give it to you right now, which is there's a whole nightmare scenario here, which is fantastic, which is all very realistic. So let's say Disney loses the state case, which I actually bet they will if they take this to trial and they go through. They will lose that state case, 100%. I will have my money on that. Undercuts the federal case, that gets kicked. Now, the district can do whatever it wants with Disney. It can increase the taxes on Disney. It can set up toll roads, which is completely legal, and tax those Disney buses coming in at 50x the rate, 100x the rate of a car.
Oh, God.
It can put the state prison thing, they can do that. They probably wouldn't, right? But they can set up whatever they want. They can put Universal Studios, billboards, on all the district property within Disney, which is their nightmare.
Right. Of course.
They can do all of that stuff. And if they want to go there, they can do it. And the other thing too is they can end up calling those bonds, those $1 billion of bonds, and leaning Disney's property for $1 billion.
Which is devastating.
No, that'd be it. I mean, they would at that point, they would be really hurting at that point. So if they really want to play hardball, eventually they're going to lose. Right? Like this is playing with a state, right? It's the entity that created you. It's like a child, like who's trying to beat their parent. I mean, unless you're in Washington and you're trying to transition, then you might win, right? But except for that, you're going to end up losing. You're just going to end up losing because you don't have the authority. So long run, there's no way Disney takes the W on this in Florida. It's just not going to happen.
Right. And that's a problem for them. And of course, as things start to progress that way, what we'll see is what I would assume is an increasingly mitigating stance from Disney. They'll tone down their rhetoric. They'll look to settle. They'll look to retain power and authority that they can, or they'll look in that settlement where even if they lose the power to govern the district, what they'll retain is some initial control over the covenants that the district could put in. Maybe they can't advertise for Universal or for Lego or any other competing parks in the area on Disney property. They say, you know what, we want restrictive covenants on billboards because this is a magic place. This isn't a place for people to be advertised to. This is for a place to come experience Disney. We all know that. So,
well, by the way, they wouldn't even need to have restrictive covenants. They could just pass they could just come to in the development agreement. They could just come to an agreement. They're going to pass a policy that there's going to be no commercial advertising on district property for anything, right? And just kind of keep that off, right? So I think that would be fair.
Yeah, they could do something like that. They could maybe come to an agreement to cap the amount of taxation that could happen. Things like that to facilitate a smoother transition, make a joint statement, show everybody that Disney and Florida are aligned again, and they're working hand in hand with the district rather than controlling the district. And if they're smart, spin it as the unraveling of something that is an artifact really of the 40s and 50s, which is the concept of the corporate town, which is a corporate private partnership that used to be favored, became heavily disfavored everywhere else in the world except this several square mile area of Florida. Because like corporate towns are hilarious, but they're gone.
This is the last one. I mean, I've seen them in other countries. I went to like Fordville in Brazil, where there's like some old factory there. They used to control it and have weird standards, like they couldn't play music after a certain time. It's really weird. These are artifacts of the past, but Disney had the last one. Frankly, that was it. And after that's gone, I don't see this happening anywhere in the United States, certainly not in Florida. That we recognize that was a mistake. Now, special districts are very helpful to get communities up and running in undeveloped land, but outside of that, this level of control is problematic.
Right. And it never even, it's funny, it never even occurred to me until this conversation that Florida was literally, or that Disney is literally the last corporate town. But they used to be this prominent thing where they would pay catastrophically low wages to corporate workers, but take care of everything else. They'd take care of roads, transportation, the mail service, private police force. They would provide housing. They would provide healthcare. They would provide everything that they need there in that corporate town. And they ran it like a little communist government. And the exchange,
which, by the way, to be clear, Disney was doing all of that. If you don't know, they have their housing for workers, particularly international workers. They have a little ghetto for them, right? They have a bus service for them. They have everything to take care of them.
Those are for the Aladdin people.
Yes, the Moroccos and the Mulans, if you will.
Oh God. But yeah, and lots of corporations used to do this, and we have some interesting Supreme Court cases around those that I've talked about. One of them is Marsh versus Alabama. But yeah, it's an artifact of a bygone era. The problem with those is because as compensation for all the stuff they provide extremely low wages. But the rub of that was that these people were never able to move away because they couldn't save up enough cash to actually go away from the area that they were in. So you had to find another corporate town and bounce between those. Well, as Disney's the last one, you can really suck people into this sort of black hole of employment forever. But really interesting stuff, man. I'm anxious to see how long it takes for this to turn out. And I think your analysis is probably the most important one I've seen, just based on what I know about you and your expertise in the area. And I encourage everybody to go to Legal Mindset's channel and check out those videos that he's done about it. I saw a lot of people in the chat saying they're really interested in this topic. He's got a ton of information out there on it. And you'll want to follow him as you follow this thing. And you can, I'll probably provide occasional summaries, but if you want to go to the source who I'm going to be stealing from, it's this guy right here.
Yeah, which is, by the way, what we all do. And by the way, when people say, oh, well, you don't know this area of law, I usually say, no, I don't, but there's a lot of better people on the internet than me who know this, and I'm relying on them, right? And it's like, this happens to be the one time it's me. Most of the time, I'm just like you. I'm just shooting off my mouth on something based on general knowledge that I may know better than the average Joe as a lawyer. And I say, look, at the end of the day, it's entertainment, a little bit of education, but I don't claim sole expertise on this. And I am happy to defer. But my issue is when you get attorneys, out there on the interwebs that claim expertise and they really don't know what the hell they're talking about.
No, and that happens with a stunning regularity, Devin.
Yeah. I got him, and I got French, and look, I say, look, copyright law, lawful masses, I would trust him for that. But when you're talking about an area of law in a state that you don't know anything about, you kind of have to say, hey, let me step back and try to find information, and let me not just come out and say, hey, this is 100% great, this is fantastic. I see this as 100% a W. I think that's disingenuous, right? When you don't know that area of law. And even you say that sometimes too about the court cases. Like we can quarterback watching the case, and we could be 100% wrong because we don't know that courtroom. We don't know how it goes. We saw it even during Rittenhouse. We were questioning how Richards did that closing. We're like, oh shit, did he fuck up? Turns out he did it just right for that jury. We
accidentally caused 10,000 people to text Richards and say, object, defend your client. Just the 10,000 texts. Didn't mean to, but it was hilarious that happened. But turns out, they ran a very competent defense. He won the case. And that's what we all said at the end of the day, too, was, look, for all of our criticisms, that guy was in the courtroom. That guy won the case. Yeah. He's the man. He's the man.
He got the W. He shut us the fuck up because he got the W. At the end of the day, that's what matters, period. So much respect where respect is deserved.
Yeah, but yeah, there are a lot of people online who claim a specific authority on specific things, and it's really disturbing. Me, I tend to qualify with, look, I'm an idiot with an opinion, who can translate legalese into normal people speak. And that's it. The things I know are freedom and dicks, man. Like, that's it.
But Nick, you're not a trial lawyer. You don't know anything. You're not worthwhile. I mean, that's the I guess the common criticism. But it's like, exactly. It's like, look, I'm here to entertain, provide a little bit of what I know, and that's the best I can do.
Exactly. That's the best any of us can do. All right, let me hit these YouTube chats. And then and some Rumble rants and stuff like that. And then we're going to hit over onto Rumble exclusivity in just a minute, guys. Brzezikiewicz Greg says, hey, Nick, there has been a death that affected me personally. So I wanted to ask for a toast. Toast to the death of my last credit card debt. No longer completely broke. You're the night shift hero. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I am happy to toast that, my man. 1 second here. This Wise Man bourbon, I don't remember how much it was. I know that Kentucky Owl confiscated bourbon is $125 a bottle, and I think that's a bit overpriced. This is under $100. This is great. This is really, really good. So if you can find the Wiseman, go get it. Strong recommend on it. I've never seen it in my liquor store. There was one bottle, bought it immediately. Nice. All right. Cheers to you, man. Cheers to the death of your credit card debt. Here's to living debt free. Grab the Vaseline and drop out an extra one because you don't need to give that labor to the man for your debt tonight, brother. Enjoy it. Happy Freedom Day for you. Cheers. God, it's so great when you pay off fucking debt.
It's that like shoulder that's removed from you.
Wait a minute, what? It's that
the monkey on your shoulder. The monkey. The monkey.
Oh, I thought that was. Sorry. I thought that was I'm very sensitive.
That one time my shoulder popped out. Yeah. No, I know the cheerleading injuries are serious, Dick. I'm sorry. I don't mean to trigger you.
You know about my shoulder injury, don't you?
You told me about that. That big girl.
That's a big girl.
Looked like Gorlock. You know, if you remember Gorlock. Yeah.
Dude. I mean, it was like lifter. I don't have any heavy equipment. What are you talking about? Do you know how many pulleys that would be required for that? I've done physics. It's a lot. It's a lot of pulleys. Helena says first milestone. Cheers. Hello, Nick. Hi, Helena. How you doing? Samuel Williams, the founding father, says, talking about trolls, Andrew, no, Florida has no income tax, but everyone has a Sun Pass, and my Sun Pass bill is $200 to $300 a month. They're turning everything to a damn toll road. I would laugh at all Disney roads being toll roads.
Oh, yeah. They would just add it to the Sun Pass system. I mean, that'd be it. They just add it to the Sun Pass system and get it linked in. Look, I mean, you can complain about the turnpike, but take I-95 if you're driving from, for example, Miami to Orlando. Have fun with that.
Yeah, $200 to $300 a month. I'm thinking about that on tax bills. Yeah, I'd take it.
Yeah.
I'd take it over the Minnesota state income tax any day and every day. And
well, you're paying for what you use. You're paying for what you use. You're seeing, okay, I can choose to go on the free road. There are free roads you can drive on that will get you from point A to point B. It will take you much longer. You have that freedom of choice. If you want to be really cheap and do it. I remember my dad doing that when we used to drive to Disney. He'd be like, we're going to save $16. I'm like, you fucker. We're spending more than that in gas. But, you know, he wanted to do it. He was convicted on doing that. So we did that. You know, you can choose not to go on the turnpike. That's up to you.
Exactly. And I love I think usage taxes are the proper way to tax.
Yeah.
Because it gives you that option.
Yep. It's direct. The person who's using it is paying. That's okay.
And it is the wealth tax. I mean, that is one of the problems with the income tax is people like Warren Buffett don't pay very much in taxes because they don't take big incomes. Their corporations take in huge incomes. And then they use depreciation. They buy large buildings or large property, depreciate them down, and then carry forward the significant losses for 20 years. And they don't pay anything in taxes versus what they actually do. consumption taxes will always tax consumption only. And so everyone has the same ability to avoid paying the tax. And if you really want to get like communist about it and you're worried like, oh, it's going to disproportionately affect the poor because they have to pay something, well, put in an exclusion up to a certain level of consumption, or exclude basic goods like food or something like that, like we already do. And then
which we already do. Yeah, I was gonna say we already have a different tax rate for basic food.
Right. You've effectively solved that problem, and there's plenty of ways around it. But it's crazy that people can buy like 17 Lambos and pay less in taxes than some upper middle class workers. And it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense.
Well, that's a business expense, though. That's a business expense. Come on,
my car's a business expense. I did a car video today. It's fucking great. I went exactly to the speed limit. Don't listen to the engine. By the way, you guys should check out I've uploaded 3 short videos in the past couple days, and I intend to do quite a few more, a couple of them in the car. I'm still playing with the car audio. I want to make sure that the engine sound is there, because I like to coincide my anger with going really, really fast, which is a lot of fun. But check out those videos, give me feedback on them, and they allow me to focus on just ranting through something rather than like reading a screen and bringing up an article and doing all this shit. I just get to give my off the cuff thoughts, and I really enjoy them. So I hope you enjoy those as well. Robert Ford 9999 says, keep giving us that long content, baby. It's the only good stuff. I disagree. Although long content is my favorite content to do. I have no intention of quitting anytime soon. It's
about the mix. It's about the mix, right? Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point. It's like, if you're doing all of one thing, you're missing out on what you get from other areas.
Right. And again, streaming is what I like to do. And that's why I'm separating the channels. But there's a whole bunch of people who would love to see content about these topics, but they come on the channel and it's like 4 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours. And they're like, I can't do that. I can't do that. So the solution is to create a channel where they can get short hits of things, and then always have it there for them to find the long content if they ever want it. And it's been an effective strategy for a ton of people. So I'm just going to embrace that. I've resisted it for way too long. Old Turd Ferguson says, hey, Nick, found you during the Rittenhouse stream. Thank you. You have referenced me to many great streamers. I have a favor to ask you. Can you help and fat shame me to not be a bucket of fat lard? I think I can manage that. My friend, you are not a bucket of fat lard, unless a bucket is described as an asteroid crater, right? And that's not because you landed there. That's because a fat person landed there before you, and you're overflowing over the crater lips, flowing out like the gravy that's pouring out the side of your mouth constantly, which is embarrassing. And as much as you lick at it with your slobbery tongue, those grease stains on your shirt belie your inability to even consume all of the stuff you shove in those meat mitts of yours, you waddling pile of trash. How dare you come to the land of the healthy and skinny people of this good YouTube channel and beg for inclusion? You beg for inclusion. You shouldn't even fit through the door. I don't know how much butter you put on the frames, but I'm sure after you squeezed through, you turned around and licked it off, you Crisco monster. Get out of my sight until I can fit all of you in my vision without panning left. Gross. There you go. Go get it, man. Get skinny. Mario Carter 13. When you've successfully tricked the government, it's generally not a wise idea to draw attention to that mistake by getting in political slap fights. Correct. Disney made a huge fucking error here. They really did. And they can cry all they want about First Amendment stuff. And I said this on the last show. Is, they get their First Amendment, but what they have is a special corporate government partnership that is disfavored in basically every area by every political alignment in the United States these days. We cast aside the idea that corporate government is a good thing. We're all like, you know what? Actually, we don't want the government to boost up a company over people and give them some level of inequality. We don't like that. So then when you have that, and that's valuable to you, you shouldn't go shitting on the authority that can take it away. That's just dumb. So good job. Deborah Breeden says, Andrew, loved seeing you and Gosney, Florida man. Riff greetings from Putnam.
Awesome. Shout out to Putnam County. Yeah, no, we were talking Disney, but half the time we're just talking Florida man shit. Like just the craziness of Florida, because Florida, and this is something people don't realize, it was really the final frontier in America. Because look, other places were developed, but Florida was really developed last because of air conditioning. A lot of Florida was you couldn't live there without an AC, right? AC is invented.
It's so fucking brutal.
It's too fucking humid. It actually, what's funny? I've spent a lot of time in Thailand nowadays. I'm between Seoul and Bangkok very often. And it's actually comfortable for me down there because the humidity is like home. It's like the exact same thing. I'm like, oh yeah, it's normal. It's normal for me.
It's so crazy. Brutal.
It's insane.
When I go visit my parents, I go for walks at night through their neighborhood. I just walk around for like an hour. A lot of times I'll stream on locals while walking around. And by the end, it's like not hot, it's 68 degrees, but you're just sweating because it's so fucking humid. Constant humidity.
Even at night, it does not matter.
Yeah. Nope, it doesn't let up. And I grew up in Houston, so it's like the same. Houston is the armpit of the country. Always sweaty. Brian Dewig says, as a certified fat man, I was laughing so hard I couldn't breathe, buttering the door. That was pretty good. Jackie Jones, welcome to Paralegal Status. The Ghost says, hey, I graduated undergrad and I'm pursuing law school. Good luck to you. I've always wanted to, and I'm so glad you've been able to solidify my decision. Cheers and thank you. I'm sorry to have done that to you, but I wish you well, The Ghost. No, seriously, if you want to practice law, go do it. Go do it. Just my caution to everybody is never go to law school because you want to make money.
Yes.
That is the lie that is sold. You can make a ton of money as a lawyer. You may hate your life and you may lose your soul doing that, depending on what you end up doing. But if you want to go practice law and help people, do it. And hopefully you do end up making a lot of money doing that because it is hard work and it is very helpful for people and you deserve the compensation that you get. But don't do it because you're like, wow, this would be a good money-making thing. The cost, the time investment, the soul investment, and the money investment breaks a lot of people. So just make sure you're going in for the right reasons. Brian says, as a psychiatrist, just want to say your take on shorts makes me think you need to get checked for lisencephaly. What's lisencephaly?
I don't even know what that is.
Lisencephaly.
Never heard of that one.
A rare gene-linked brain malformation characterized by the absence of convolutions, folds in the cerebral cortex, an extremely hard, small head, so smooth brain, small head. My takes on shorts, like short videos or shorts, where I want shorts to get shorter. For both men and women.
That's insane. Now that you do have smooth brain over. That is some.
Wait, you want longer shorts?
Wait, on me or on
anybody, everybody. I want shorter.
Well, no,
shorts
okay. I have gender segregation. I want very long shorts on the male side, but on the female side, we're talking about our naughty sports leagues. I want them to be very short.
I was in Philly with Lady Rackets. We were driving with some friends. And I see a group of like hipsters or whatever. And I look over and there's this like jacked dude reclined on like a stone fountain. And he has his legs up and he has these super short shorts on. And his tan line is like 4 inches of bright white thigh. And I was like, this is the most confident man I've ever seen. That is fantastic. I want to shop where he shops so I can have my manly, bright white, pasty legs on display too. I don't care what other people wear. I want shorter shorts, and they're hard to find. But I think they're talking about short videos.
Yes.
And I'm telling you guys, like you can say, I know there's a common idea that Zoomers and and millennials have this short attention span, and that they're the ones consuming the short content. I have the data to back it up from when I produced very short content for a very specific window of time. And the overwhelming majority was literal boomers, not like joke moniker boomers,
like
literal boomers.
No, it was actual boomers.
It was just an interesting thing to see. It surprised the shit out of me. And I have several friends who consistently work and appeal to that audience. They're extremely successful. By the way, you have several friends who do the same thing too. Yes. All of you in chat watch content creators. If you watch Right Side Broadcasting Network, if you watch Steven Crowder, Daily Wire, and you notice that their short content does extremely well, I can guarantee you their average age is much older than you think. You'd be surprised because you're like, oh, it's Crowder. He's appealing to the young, blah, blah, blah. No, he's not.
To the kids, you know.
He's not. The kids don't watch Steven Crowder. The old adults do. Quite because they think the kids do. It's the funny, weird, like self-fulfilling thing. But Luke Slivkov says, happy birthday, Bella Stella, and all the other fellow Cinco de Mayo babies. We will conquer the world. You will, but first you have to garden the garden. Oh, Stephen Ferguson. Wait, I'm not on Rumble yet. No, I mean, you have to shingle the roof. God damn it, no. Stephen Ferguson says, can I get your opinion on separation of church and state? I don't think it means what the left, parts of the right thinks it means. Thanks. I mean,
in what way in what way would they think it, what do they think it means? Separation
of church and state is a line from a letter of, I think, Benjamin Franklin, who says we need to build a wall of separation between the church and the state. And it was a summary of a concept that the First Amendment was trying to work around. But the idea that your speech is separated from your speech and your practice of your religion are separated from your ability to engage in public life and practice politics. We didn't have a religious test at first, just federally, and then after Reconstruction, both federal and state. We didn't have religious tests on the achievement of federal office. And that's, if you want to get to the original intent of what they're talking about if you're a Quaker, a Catholic, a Protestant, an agnostic, or an atheist, all of them could hold federal office. That's all it meant at the time it was passed, and that the federal government could not impose a federal state religion. But remember that all states, except for Rhode Island, had a state religion when that was passed, and those persisted for several years after the Constitution. And it wasn't until 1870 or so when we would start to hear First Amendment cases that would expand the 14th Amendment, or through the 14th Amendment, expand that religious protection to the state and then the municipal government levels. So it kind of really depends when you are talking about and what we believe. What we believe now is that basically government can't say shit about atheism and can say a lot of shit about any other religion that they want, right, except for Islam. Right. So it's kind of weird, but I think what you're talking about is the original intent, and I gave you a good summary of it. Nazir says, I'm a poor. Will Drex/Mindset stream be on Rumble or anywhere else for free?
Oh, so yeah, I've got to upload that. Rumble's been having some issues. Sorry, guys. So I'm going to manually upload the Drex one to Rumble. So I'm going to get on that. I'll try to get on that after the stream. So I'll get that there.
I made a dumb mistake.
Yeah.
Rumble doesn't have mobile uploads yet, which baffles me. And so I was like, well, I'm doing these car videos and then I'm not always home. So I mobile upload them to YouTube. And I was like, I'll turn on auto syndication from Rumble and then it'll just grab any new video I put out. Cool feature, right?
Right.
No, wrong. Because I do a YouTube/Rumble live stream that ends early on YouTube and then persists on Rumble, which means that the full live stream uploads to Rumble, but also the YouTube live stream is mirrored then to Rumble. So I have two copies, one that's half as long as the other one, and it's fucking irritating. So I have to remember to go in and delete that mirrored copy at the, I guess in the morning, because it's got a process too. So that is something they need to, I don't know how you fix that, but they need to fix it to where maybe it doesn't pull live streams. It only pulls video on demand stuff or something. It's, and I don't know. Helena says, may the 4th be with you. You too, lady. She also says, I have a theory that Pinocchio's lies grew enough nosewood to create all the wooden dowels that made the brooms that flooded Yen Sid's tower when Mickey messed up as his apprentice. I loved Fantasia. So you're saying that he kept lying and then they would chop off another broomstick and then those got animated in Fantasia? Have you seen that? Have you ever seen that picture of Geppetto bent over in front of, or no, it was a Family Guy, I think, where he's bent over in front of Pinocchio And he starts asking him questions that he should lie to. And he's like, come on, Pinocchio, tell me a lie.
Oh, so no, Geppetto, no.
Oh, God.
It's gone too far. But yeah, ironically, though, I will say this has been the quietest that it's been on May the 4th, because I think everybody related to Star Wars is kind of shutting the fuck up this year.
Look, I'm gonna say it. I've said it.
Yeah, I know your views. I know your views on Star Wars. So.
Star Wars has always been bad. It's always been bad. Look, you can like it. I like tons of bad stuff, and people miss this. And Star Wars is important. Don't get me wrong. It changed sci-fi in cinema forever for the better. It's like the Beatles. I don't like the Beatles, but I appreciate what the Beatles did for rock and roll. I appreciate how they advanced music, musical production, how they advanced albums, how they advanced musical live performances, and reading the story of how they got so fucking good at live performances is hilarious. I don't know if people know this, but they used to perform in like Berlin strip clubs and they would do 8-hour-long sets. And that's why by the time they actually started performing for their band, these guys had done thousands and thousands of hours together playing. So they were a cohesive unit. But Star Wars, the original trilogy that you all love, has always been a bad story. It's always been garbage. It's been poorly acted. The dialogue's atrocious. The storyline is basic and boring. And the fact that you love it is because there are space lasers and space laser swords, which are fucking cool. But it's always been bad. And so now people are finally realizing that it's bad. And they're like, they're ruining it. It's like, no, George Lucas ruined it just by his existence.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I know everybody's going to hate that take, and I'll always be right on it. So there. Walter Deadman says, so that cheerleader injury, was it like that scene in Dodgeball with the fat girl? No, not quite. That is funny, and it does give me trauma triggers, and I have to fast forward that part. But no, so I was lifting her in a chair. Now, a chair is where a woman places her vagina, if she's skinny, she places her vaginal mound right on the end of your palm, and her ass cheeks kind of hang over your fingers. Now, you saw in Bring It On, the guy would like finger her with his thumb. That's not real. Like, that will break your hand. So you can't really do that. But she just sits, and her vagina's right there, and it's warm, and you lift her up, right? And you hold her lower leg steady against your chest to keep her stable, and you hold her for a little bit. This girl was, I don't know what part of her sat on my hand because it was gooey, like and floppy, and she was big, and she sat down and I went to lift her up, and I stood up and went to do this because you kind of use the momentum of your standing and all of that to keep the arm going and lift up. Because I don't know about you guys, but I probably still can't just take 120 pounds and push it from one arm.
Straight one arm lift. Yeah, that's not.
But in college, I did it all the time because she's kind of going upwards. Your legs are pushing up, and the momentum just kind of carries her up. And then once your arm locks, it's stable. We got to like here, and my shoulder just went, and I tore 4 of my 5 rotators. So it hurt like fucking sin, and I was out for a long time. So that was nice. So there you go. Let's see. Helena says, my ADHD brain appreciates shorts. Please and thank you. Sam Proshansky says, repeal every amendment after the 15th. Excise only. No, some of the amendments after the 15th are actually good ones.
Which ones would you keep, Nick?
27th. I'd keep the 27th for sure.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me pull them up.
Yeah, I want to see. We're definitely not keeping the 19th. I'll tell you that. But moving on.
Yeah, the 19th needs to go for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so we've got let's see, 15th. Okay, so income tax that needs to go.
By the way, I don't know about the 18 years old in voting. I don't know about that. I think we need to make it older. I think we're
back to 21.
Yeah,
back to 21 where it was. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I get rid of the income tax, so no 16th. I get rid of popular election of senators, no 17th. Prohibition in the other one, repealing prohibition, cancel out, so that's fine. I get rid of the 19th. Presidential term and succession, I actually do think 2-term presidents is a good thing.
Yeah.
So I keep the 20th. 21st is repeal of prohibition. Or wait, no. Presidential term and succession is the 4 years, and then that was the succession to the the vice president, and then the Speaker of the House and all that stuff. I think that one's actually okay. 22nd is the 2-term limit on presidency. That one we definitely keep. Presidential vote for DC. I think that should be out. I don't think DC gets a vote on the president. Fuck you if you live in DC.
Well, there wasn't never intended to be a place where people lived. It was supposed to be the source of government.
Yeah, so that's why it was only 10 square miles originally.
Right.
Abolition of poll taxes. I don't think there should ever be a poll tax. Like I think that one, I think that one should go. Presidential disability and secession. We want the 25th Amendment, right? We do want people to be able to remove the president if he's Joe Biden and they're competent.
But yeah, never been used, but it's theoretically, right?
Okay, so I keep the 20th, the 20th, the 22nd, and the 25th and the 27th. That's what I keep. But the right to vote at 18, man, I struggle with that one because
also I'm for under a current thing, either repealing selective service or making it truly neutral. Because once again, if you're going to give us equal, if we're appealing the 19th, then you can keep selective service the way it is. If we're not, then yeah. So yeah, I don't know. At 21, look, listen, all I'm saying is that folks seem to be regressing nowadays and weaponizing that particular segment of the population in college. That's kind of the college segment. So yeah. I'm not necessarily against it.
I think the selective service is the big hiccup there. If you change the selective service to 21 or remove the selective service because fuck the government, then I think voting age could be 21. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't mind a 25. Actually, I would go with a net taxpayer voting. Personally, I like the landowner voting. Actually,
no, I mean that's what it was originally. And once again, if you have land, you have a stake in the game, right? And the whole point is the people who are voting should be the people who have a stake in the game. People who have no chips on the table and have nothing on the table at all whatsoever. There's no reason to get. I don't believe in universal suffrage just because you happen to physically be present at a place in the universe at a moment. No, you've got no stakes. You have to have stakes.
I agree with that. Dixon Butts says, Andrew's great, fantastic insight. Really couldn't be better. Here's some money, Nick. Oh, wait, was that a Trump? Andrew's great, the greatest,
the greatest
insight. Really couldn't be better. Actually, I've talked to lots of lawyers, some Korean, some not Korean, many Americans, some expatriates, some current patriots, but fighting in a foreign country like our friend here. And we know that there really isn't anyone, not even anyone with a smidge of the height game that he has, or the intellectual commodity that he is. Terrific, man. Wonderful. Primark Vulcan says, if you have tried it, do you like Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve? I have not found a Glenlivet that I don't like, but I can't remember if I've tried Caribbean Reserve. I'll try it if I find it. Asia Frazier says, get track shorts, Nick. I have some 5-inch running shorts. They're amazing. Marksman of 117B says, what do you think of my profile pic? Dumb question. No, it's good. I like it. It's great. Tanner Reeve, I was that girl. Now I'm that man. I'm sorry about your shoulder. Wait, what?
The transition has happened.
Stephen Ferguson says, example, in Oklahoma, we passed school choice that gives parents a tax credit to use on their kids' school. Critics claim it violates separation because it may be used for private religious schools. That's retarded.
Yeah, I think it's dumb. If you're giving it, if it's available for other private schools, it's got to be available for religious schools as well. I think that's true fairness across the board.
Yeah. Garrett Pace asked, 5-inch shorts, how do you keep from hanging brain? So they're running shorts. So they have a mesh netting within them that keeps your boys in check. Right. So that's the trick to really short shorts is unless you're really bold, you want to have that mesh netting in there or wear underwear, I guess, if you're a fucking degenerate, but you have that mesh netting in there to keep the boys in place. to do that. But since they're running shorts, that's what they do. And I'm telling you, if you run long distance, you do not want underwear on at all. Fuck that shit. Put on some of that nice ball chamois stuff and some thigh chamois stuff so that you don't chafe, but keep them free and breathing. But yeah, a nice mesh in the shorts is good. Did you see that based city or school board woman?
Where?
When I think it was in Arizona.
Okay.
Where they passed, it might have been Maricopa even. They passed transgender bathrooms or whatever. They allowed trans people to use the bathrooms that they identify with in high schools. And the school board member says, what I would recommend to all parents is take that school vouchers we gave you and enroll your children in private school or homeschool. Put your money to better use. I can no longer endorse this school board. I can no longer endorse the school districts we oversee. This is a travesty. It was like a 5-4 vote or something. And she was like the head, and she came out and she's just shit all over the school and the school board. It was awesome.
That's fantastic, because we need to take those sort of actions. We need to hit them in the wallet. Look, it's working with Bud Light. I mean, this is where you've got to go. You've got to actually hit these people where it counts and stop paying them for the pleasure of taking advantage of, at this point, your children, which is the really perverse part about all this. It's all targeted at the children, which is absolutely deranged.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And that is the entire point, in my opinion, of the of school choice and school vouchers, and why they're so damn important is because if you can bleed the public school system, if you have the ability to bleed the public school system, it gets destroyed immediately. Yeah. And I mean, it does. They run their margins so damn tight, because all they will do is when there's ever any bloat in a school budget, it goes immediately to a funded project or an administrator. One of those two things. They'll hire another administrator, they'll stuff in another teacher, or they'll do a building project and fucking waste even more money. And so when if you don't know, at least in Minnesota, and I believe in most states how this works, they get paid per diem per student in attendance, which is the only reason why students who miss more than like 18 days of semesters automatically fail. It has nothing to do with what they've learned, what they've retained, how they test, how well they do the homework, or anything like that. It's literally, if you miss X amount of days, you fail, because the idea that students might miss, several students might miss 25 days will actually cause the school to go into the red, and they can't do it because of the way the states pay out. And that's why they will forever oppose those school choice vouchers. It is so dangerous to their very existence. And that is why we know we must support that policy.
Right. That's how you know when they're that angry about it, you're on target. Like when you're getting that much flack, you're entirely on target.
Yeah, it's crazy, because like I've known kids who they got really sick. They missed a whole bunch of days. They had a straight A report card because they did all the homework. They made up everything. They did all the essays. They did all the tests. And they're like, sorry, you got to repeat the grade because you missed too many days. Like, wait, fuck you. Fuck you on that. Jonathan Leet, your first super chat, and it was censored by YouTube. Sorry about that.
It happens.
Taylor Cook says state citizenship should be a thing. Being able to move into a place and vote without being there for some time is kind of nuts. That depends on the state. But in Texas, you have to express a desire to not return. I think you have to demonstrate 6 months of continued residence. I think it's similar for Florida. Because I remember when my parents moved to Florida, like the steps that they had to take to prove their residence was in Florida, and similarly to prove to Minnesota that they weren't there, because Minnesota was trying to get its grubby hands on their tax dollars.
Right.
Ramble Breyer, because of Poly Research, been diving into Title 42 border policy, and just how do I even discuss this with people who believe in an open border? I really hate discussing this, because in 2023, discussing an open border is a foreign concept that's really toxic. But the crazy thing is, in 1984 and 1985, we had open borders that actually kind of functioned. It's a different time. different issues, different people. And now we have 40 years between then and now that have changed how the world works. We have new dangers and stuff. So it's kind of tough, because if you talk to people and they have knowledge about the past, you will see the United States had an effectively open border policy between World War I and World War II, and then between World War II and the mid 80s.
Yeah, it's just there were different factors to travel, and the ability to pay, I mean, even at most, right, a couple $100, hop on a plane, or rather to just overstay a visa, or rather to just hop across a border, right? That ability has been accelerated.
And we didn't give people every benefit on earth just because they were physically present. That was a difference. So you would have this cyclical migration of workers who would come in during certain months from Mexico. They would work in the southern states for a couple weeks to a couple months at a time. They would cycle back out, and they did not come in and demand a full welfare state. They didn't demand free health care. They didn't demand like voting rights and all of these constitutional protections. It was a different time. So how you talk about to people now about, the immigration status and if they believe in open borders, you kind of can't unless they're willing to like acknowledge the difference between when we had open borders and when we didn't have open borders. Those are two very different time periods with very different considerations. One of them being, we didn't have terrorists from Saudi Arabia flying to Mexico and then coming across the porous border. That wasn't an issue that we dealt with in 1963. Like it wasn't a problem. It is a problem now. And so we have those different considerations. But the way you got to do it, what I would suggest, if you really do want to have that discussion, is educate yourself on those past open border policies. Note the very specific differences between now and then, and be ready to present those counter arguments and say, look, I recognize that this has worked at periods of time, but we're not in those periods of time right now. And here's why it's different. And here's how we address these problems. And while we have a nation that is in this status, and we're going to give these benefits to people and attract people who are not workers, but are takers from the country, we cannot have open borders. And that's my personal position. I think theoretically, sort of that cyclical migratory worker pattern can work. I don't think it can work today. Not in the reality we live in, but we've seen it actually work in the past just fine. But, this is one of those things. This is like a long-term change that would need to happen with cultural shifts all around before you could even think about it working again. Could it be implemented by 2025? Not a fucking chance.
No way. No way.
We need to tighten a border. We need to use lethal force to tighten a border. We need to be heavier on deportations. And when a big fucking caravan is on the way from Colombia through Mexico to get here, we need to shut it down in Mexico in a partnership with the Mexican government and encourage them to turn them the fuck around. That just is what has to start happening. And if we don't, we're retarded. So, let's see. Legal Vices says, Ninjas. How you doing, brother?
What's up? Hope you're enjoying Osaka. Have fun with the cat girls.
Sam Broshansky says, agree on the amendments to keep past 15 on second thought, but need to also revert birthright citizenship and like 95% of immigration naturalization as well. Cheers from Florida. Hope they ruin Disney. Remember that the 14th Amendment was intended solely to grant birthright citizenship to Black people who were born as slaves in the country. It was expanded dramatically beyond that. But the people who wrote the 14th Amendment were like, well, we're really afraid that southern states will not recognize these people as citizens. We'll try to deport them back to an Africa they weren't actually born in. They have no ties, and that's insane. Like, that's what they were concerned about. It's been bastardized by Wong Kim's son or whatever that fucking ruling is. And yeah, we do need to reanalyze, and the court should clarify what birthright citizenship was intended to do and what it means today. Because the idea that two foreign citizens illegally cross into the United States, have a baby, and are suddenly granted green cards because they're parents to an American citizen is dumb.
It's insane. It's an insane way to think about it. And you can have somebody coming in, which they often do. I've met a lot of people over here in Asia that do that have the ability to come in visa free to the US, have a child, boom, they've got that passport, right?
Yep. And it's wild that we allow that at all. No other countries actually allow that. they would recognize those as American citizens. Like that's what they would do, because they are. And we would recognize, like, if you had an illegal border crossing of 2 American parents into Canada to drop a baby on the ground in Canada, that baby would come out an American citizen. We know this from both Obama, from Ted Cruz, from John McCain. That this is not from, not necessarily from those people individually, but from all of the discussion around those. That if you were born in a foreign country to 2 American parents, you're an American citizen. And that's how birthright citizenship has gone forever. So we got new weird shit now. Renee Villarreal says Mexicans are getting upset about the people passing through Mexico to us. Yep. And they should be. They should be.
No, but wait, I thought all Hispanics are the same. We got to lump them all in the same category in order to discriminate against them.
Where are you from? Oh, I am from El Salvador. Oh, I thought you were from Guadalajara because that's how we both talk. No, it's like, that's not real. No, it's not real at all. In fact, if you confuse Central and South American countries for each other, you might get stabbed. Don't do it.
Possible.
Maybe you won't get shot, but you will get a chancla. Maria Trujillo says, forget customer civil service. I want some mandatory customer service. Make these people deal with Karens, crackheads, and district managers. Let them know what it's like to have almost a quarter of their income tax. Yeah, that would be good. Stephen Watchit Crowder says, what's your opinion on owning one car? One's good. Am I right?
Oh, we got to get into that. I'm sure we'll be into that very soon.
We'll hit it in just a second on Rumble. Hugh Jazz says, defund public schools, defund the FBI, defund gun control, and defund the IRS, then defund the police. Helena says, World War I and World War II didn't happen on our continent. We felt safe and maybe complacent. Having refugees from someone on the same landmass might be more scary. No, I mean, we actually, World War I was the first. Okay, we closed the border to the Chinese prior to World War I, but World War I was the first time we closed borders to European countries. We didn't let Italians in, and we didn't let Germans in for a little while. Then in World War II, obviously, we had similar issues going through there. We had closed borders at those times, but those were the first major ones. Prior to that, we did stop letting Chinese around 1870 or something. We had an open Chinese policy, but we got scared of how many Chinese were coming into the country, and we did shut it down for a little bit. But like with Mexico and Canada, it was never an issue, never a problem until the mid 80s when we started to impose stricter border protections, and they've only kind of increased ever since. And again, some of the reasoning behind it has been good. Some of it has been not good. But whatever the reasoning that brought us to where we are where we are, and we need to recognize that. And that's the big problem with our country, is not recognizing where we are because of where we were. All right, that's it for YouTube. Holy shit, that went way too long. We're going to get over to Rumble in just a second. But what I got to do real quick is talk about my friends over at fieldofgreens.com. Fieldofgreens.com, promo code NOSE is where you want to be. Look, it's really simple. You take your Field of Greens bottle. Oh, see, he's got one right there, because you were using this. You were using this long before.
Yeah, long before this, I was using it. And they sponsor my channel as well. So like I used it beforehand. Liked it. Once again, I'm lazy as hell, so I don't always get a chance to eat as many greens as I would like to. So it's a way to to chip that in there. When, look, let's face it, no one's eating 5 servings of greens a day. No.
Why would you?
Yeah, that's insane. Nobody is able to do that. So at least you got something, and at least it's real, not just extract.
Right. And that's the trick. That's the difference between this and like supplements. Is this is not an oil, it's not an extract, it's not something, it's just green stuff blended up and given to you. And it doesn't taste like a mowed lawn. It doesn't taste like lawn trimmings or anything like that. Now, I will say, and maybe you can confirm, maybe you can deny, the lemon lime, too much lime.
I have not had the lemon lime. The only flavor, actually, I don't do the unflavored one, but other than that, all the flavors have been good for me. So
I'm not a fan of the lemon lime, but I am drinking it. I'm trying to see if it grows on me. It's still just too much lime, but don't let that stop you. If you like lime, if you like heavy citrus, go get it. I mean, if that's your thing, you'd probably enjoy it. Personally, I prefer the wild berry. I like the original, the dark green one that you have. I like that one.
Yeah.
Those are great. This one isn't bad. Put vodka in this. It's pretty good, actually. Did that yesterday, but go ahead and give it a shot. Get your vegetables in real quick. I'll show you the website. Look, the most important thing is you want to use your promo code. Make sure you get your discount on it. It is not a cheap product. And the reason it's not a cheap product is they don't use cheap bullshit to make it. They use real, fully organic, just the food itself. It's not something else. So go to fieldofgreens.com, promo code knows. And again, the people who I've talked to who have tried it actually do tend to really enjoy it. With that, we're going over to YouTube or going over to Rumble. The link is in the pinned comment. It's also in the description on YouTube. We've got a little 20-second stinger between the shows, and we will see you guys there. And we have some more to say about some topics. We'll catch you there, guys. Have a good night. Peace. Peace.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Oh, fuck. I put the wrong one. Hold on. I canceled it on Rumble. Fucking hell. Just a second. Sorry, Rumble. I can't.